What Bitcoin Core is allowing smells kind of fishy. I mean, for those of you who don't know, in October 2025, the Bitcoin Core team approved what many are arguing goes against the fundamental premise and goal of Bitcoin. Now, there are a number of videos on YouTube that will argue against this decision, but I believe there is a bigger conspiracy and plan in place that we have to lift up to the community. Let's take a minute to actually consider what has happened with Bitcoin in 2025. Bitcoin this year has seen new highs reaching 123,000. Some analysts predict Bitcoin could reach 150,000 by the end of 2025, with others believing that it might reach 200. Bitcoin is seeing massive institutional adoption in the form of strategic Bitcoin reserves being announced. The US government has explored establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, signing an executive order in March 2025 to seize Bitcoin as part of a national reserve. EFT inflows have increased dramatically, has driven significant capital inflows and institutional investment. The US crypto regulatory environment has evolved, aiming for more clarity. The Genius Act, which stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins, was signed into law in July 2025, providing clear regulations for payments, stablecoins, including reserve requirements and consumer protections. The approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs in early 2024, continuing into 2025, broadened Bitcoin's appeal to mainstream investors and reduced average daily volatility. We now have massive companies considering 1 to 5% allocations in all portfolios. This addition will more than likely catapult Bitcoin into the $1 to $10 million per coin mark. With all of this happening, why the heck is Bitcoin Core making this decision now? Now, I'm only trying to logically put 2 and 2 together, but imagine what will happen when these entities start noticing child porn, bloat, and other non-financial things taking place within the Bitcoin ecosystem. What would you do if you're BlackRock and you hold 752,000 Bitcoins worth close to $87 billion? Would you casually just sit and watch as developers play sandbox with your investment? The Bitcoin Core team believes that Bitcoin should be neutral, allowing anyone to use it as long as they pay the fees. But this mindset is fundamentally flawed based on the current state of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is no longer a movement. It has and is becoming a part of the American culture. Back in 2012, this experiment might have been okay, but I argue that this is a problem in today's market. Bitcoin Knots and his maintainer Luke Dasher warns that removing the cap could turn the main network into a dumping ground for non-financial transactions, essentially spam. They argue that allowing unlimited data could bloat the system and lead to much worse. And in my opinion, I agree. The main goal of Bitcoin, as envisioned by Satoshi Nakamoto, is to serve as a decentralized electronic cash system. The Bitcoin white paper, titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, outlines this vision, aiming to allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without the need for financial institution or central authority. However, based on Bitcoin Core's rationale for these changes, one can logically see that this undermines Satoshi's ultimate vision, which is to create a decentralized electronic cash system, not a place where you can sit back and just post NFTs. But I argue more nefarious action may be taking place. If I were the US government or BlackRock or another institution like Strategy, and I've made massive investments into Bitcoin, and I notice poor decision making, an ununified approach within the Bitcoin community, pornography, illegal content, spam, and much worse, I would do 3 core things. And I pray this doesn't happen. If I was the US government, I would enact criminal enforcement immediately. Don't forget, Trump has promised budget-neutral ways to acquire Bitcoin. Imagine if node runners are carrying illegal content on their computers. I would treat the Bitcoin ledger as a national security threat. I think this year I must have heard Trump mention national security at least 150 times. There would be grounds if there is illegal content on the Bitcoin ledger if this takes place. And lastly, if I were BlackRock or Strategy, I might recommend filtering or hard fork with new leadership that could be controlled and or regulated. Honestly, I don't really understand why this decision is being made while Bitcoin is winning. Ultimately, I'm not saying we should revolt. I'm not advocating for violence or anything like that. But as someone who's holding a large portion of his wealth in Bitcoin and its future, I believe we all have a responsibility to vocally stop this decision. There are 4 things every Bitcoiner must do to peacefully go to war against this decision. Refuse to upgrade. Coordinate socially by running your own node. Educate others. Influence minors or propose alternative layer 2 protocols that have larger data sizes for Bitcoin Core to play sandbox with. If we don't fight against this decision, we may turn Bitcoin into a target for global regulatory control. And I pray this doesn't happen. So, what are your thoughts? And where do you see this going? Please make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and thanks for watching.